There we go. Hey, man.
There we go.
Finally.
Technology at its best, man. Gotta love technology.
I know, right? Literally, I had to like restart the stream because first person comes on and he's like, "Oh, I can't hear you. I hear you, see your mouth moving, but is not I'm not hearing anything." I'm like, "Oh, damn it."
So be it, man. It happens, and yeah, you can't always depend on technology for everything, right?
Yeah.
So
I see hilarious Tanya. I see we're both rocking the striker shirts today.
Are you?
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Cool.
Hell
I
yeah.
got this one. This is from the tour when I went on tour with them last summer. No, 2 summers ago, I guess. The one with Steel Panther, they were nice enough to take me on as their merch bitch.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm so thankful for that. Like, super nice dudes. I love Stryker. And,
Yeah.
Yeah, I was allowed to keep a hoodie because I love hoodies. So super nice of them. And yeah, they were amazing to tour with. Just super nice dudes.
Yeah, that's sweet. I remember when we got to open for them when they came here with Unleash the Archers, and I'd still say like they're one of the best like live metal bands like currently because they're so fun and they're one of the few bands I can say, because you can't really say this very much anymore. They're one of the few bands I can say that live they sound exactly like the record, which is sweet.
I agree with. I heard them every night for maybe, what was it? I think 13 dates or 15 dates on that tour. I don't remember, but it was like, yeah, they always sound crisp, and they're calm and collected and organized and laid back, and yeah, man, it was just super fun to experience. I've never that was my second cross Canada tour with a band, and it was just amazing. Just super amazing how it was. So
Yeah. So anyways, welcome to the Wolfpack live stream series. Great to have you, man. And
thanks for having me.
yeah, no problem. This is this whole thing was I don't know if you saw the one I did on Monday. This whole idea was just brought to my attention from Gaia Guarda, and I think also Curtis from Dewar PR was like encouraging a bunch of his people to do it too, and it's and yes, it's been getting really good reception so far. So yeah, so I guess to start things off, like how you been during this whole pandemic thing? I guess like in general, like how things been over there.
Just hustling, doing my same thing. It's pretty much album promos and single promos. Definitely an increase in single promos. And then, yeah, there's a void without the tours and the festivals I work for, The music festivals keep me busy year round, prepping and stuff. There's always something to do every week, at least for them, and prepping for the festivals that I work for out west. So there's none of that. And then the tours, usually I'm busy. I'm usually around this time, I'm already booked for like tours in April, May, and June coming. So there's none of that. Like my summer schedules usually starts booking around this time. So, it's another void, and it is what it is. I know when everything comes back, it's going to be busy.
Oh yeah,
super busy as fuck. Every band's gonna hit the road, and every band's gonna want PR for their tours to let people know that they're alive and kicking. I was even talking to one of the newspapers in Sudbury yesterday, and they're talking like, anything we could do to support the artists right now. And I'm like, honestly, right now, there's nothing we can do because we usually hit them up for press when bands are touring through Sudbury, right? So
yeah.
So when that comes back, it'll be like, yeah, man, So it's a waiting game. That's how I see it. It's just we've all been set back by, I look at it by 2 years. The industry's been set back at least by 2 years to maybe 3, 4, 5 until it's in full circle.
Yeah.
It's hit the industry hard. Venues, look, venues, it's really sad. I'm expecting more announcements of some more venues to go under, especially those who work in the live atmosphere. are going to be changing jobs and maybe not coming back to the live gig stuff. So yeah, it's just one of those things. It's unfortunate. It's the way the world is.
Yeah.
And we sit back and relax and wait it out, as calmly as we can. Patience is a virtue, as the old saying goes, right? So.
Yeah, it's funny you bring that. It's funny that you bring that up because, yeah, because as you remember, we were supposed to go on tour in April last year to go to Hyperspace, which I know is one of the festivals that you promote, and it's very. It was kind of a. It was just very like all happened at once, Like I even remember when they first announced the lockdown. I think all of us were thinking like, it's not going to be that long. We'll be back on the road soon, and but yeah, no, I feel like recently all we really can do is kind of just promote music from home and make music from home, and as you said with what you've been doing is like just promoting just recorded music and promoting merch and trying to buy as much merch as you can to keep a lot of these bands afloat, because even though that like it sucked for us not being able to do this tour, there are a lot of bands I know personally who like we didn't lose any money from it. Like this is our very first tour, this is just kind of like
the first tour is always a loss.
Yeah, exactly. But there's bands that I know personally who got affected so much. Like the one I felt really bad for was I have a couple of friends and colleagues in the band Seven Spires, and they were supposed to go on tour opening for Insomnium, like their first major tour package they ever been on, opening for Insomnium and Omnium Gatherum, I think, throughout the entire United States. They played the first date. The next day was when they announced the lockdown.
Yeah, that's terrible.
Yeah, I felt
it's gonna take some. It's like for some bands, I feel like it's just trying to play it smart. Unfortunately, we all had to suck up losses. I think everybody in the music industry has lost in any parts. Even myself, the PR, we've lost. And then the labels have lost. The bands have lost. Everyone's lost, and so there's like nobody can really, we're all in the same boat, and and hopefully the fans are empathetic towards that. That's all.
Yeah.
Hopefully the fans will return to the shows. I have a feeling a lot of people will be itching to go back to live shows.
Yeah, like I think myself. Yeah, same here. Like I think that once everything gets back to normal and we have kind of the go ahead, I think you're right that I think that especially the live music industry is gonna just have a big boom period. I think everyone's gonna go to everything, and
it might get to a point where it might be too saturated. Who knows?
Yeah, yeah, it's true.
Everybody's gonna jump the gun and take the first chance and first opportunity. They're already announcing tours in Europe.
Yeah.
For late 2021 and stuff like that, and hopefully those go through and aren't canceled, because as an industry dude, I had some bands I was working and they were like, oh, we're gonna announce this tour, and I was like, I don't know if you should announce the tour, man. Like, there might be a chance it'll be canceled, so it's kind of pointless in a sense, right? Like, we're putting out, we're retracting, we're putting out, we're retracting.
Yeah.
It's kind of just, you honestly kill your fan base and those following you a bit that way. So it's
yeah, because when you keep saying like, oh, this is happening, oh no, wait, it's not happening till later, it's like they want time, and I can sympathize because that's actually happened. Like that's been happening with us too in terms of during this pandemic, because even though our tour that we were going to do, obviously once they announced, no live shows, nothing, that was that. And I kind of have the mentality of there's no point in doing anything live until we can do it properly, because so with us, even with as I've been talking to you with about like the new material and all that, even though that we're completely done, it's also to the fact of like our label now saying like, oh, because of COVID, it might get pushed back a month or two because of the plants, like the manufacturers, like taking like slower time, which it sucks, but
Yeah, everything's a little bit slower, that's for sure. And you know, there's also more music going out too, so everything's got to be planned more in advance from a PR angle. I know that, like, so it's like it's just yeah, the pandemic has just changed things. The formula. That's how I look at it. Everything has a formula, and you got to figure out the formula and then work the formula. So everything's just changed, and you know, the music industry's always been about timing and planning. So
mhm.
you know, you want to do it right because you also only have kind of one shot. You know, I have unfortunately some bands who hit me up and they're like, "Hey, we released our album in November, and you know, can we get pressed now?" And I'm like, "It's kind of old, man. I'm
Yeah,
sorry. You know, like you missed the boat for certain opportunities with press and stuff, right?
yeah, and
Everything's done in advance in the music industry, just like any business. You know, you plan. You don't. You know, it's not like you go. It's not trying to be like, you know, after the fact. Everything's got to be before in any business. Everything's got to be planned. So
yeah. Like even with us, I remember the like I find it's just like it is a in some cases it's a steep learning curve because there's lots of bands I know personally who they don't even know like the whole idea of PR even exists because like and I didn't for a while when we first started because I kind of just thought with most young bands it's like, oh, you know, you kind of have to do everything yourself and you kind of try and find whatever small website will review your stuff and all that. And it was very I remember when we did our Four Horsemen EP, that's what I did. And it was before I met you, actually, before I think when we released that. And I remember a bunch of friends of mine from older bands like Joe from Scar for the Wicked, obviously, like telling me it's like, oh no, you have to get PR, man. That's like how you get that's how more people see your stuff. And then most people and most young bands, it's almost like a culture shock, you know, so they don't even know that exists. But now for me, I always say the same thing now. I say, like, whenever there's a younger band, I'm like, yeah, go hire somebody. That's the best money you'll ever spend.
I used to explain it to some people because they didn't understand what PR was. I'd be like, you know, when you pick up a magazine or you listen to the radio, you know, or just read online, that stuff doesn't get there on its own. There's
Yeah,
people behind the scenes at the record labels or independently that are, you know, content. Technically like, you know, a content provider. We're pushing clients and artists and stuff to be covered using the media to reach new fans, new followers, etc. So yeah, some people, you know, it's unfortunate. I find that some people are jaded with the world a bit. Like, how did you think, you know, people find out about stuff? You know, even like not even talking music PR. Like I studied corporate PR, and you know, I learned, you know, other stuff with PR and products and stuff, and you know, everything you read, even about like, you know, cosmetics or your shoes or sporting stuff or whatever, the cars, you know, the car world has PR people too. Like all that stuff, you know, is pumped had the press guys too. You know,
mhm.
there's a whole it's a whole sometimes I feel like the PR world's like a hidden world, secret world that bands don't know about, like, but it's
Yeah,
there. It's all there, man. You know, it's just one part of the machine. We're one part of it. Like in my, you know, you have the label, you have your management, you have your booking agent, you know, the band's touring. To me personally, still, I feel touring is the biggest PR a band will have, and opening for bigger acts and stuff like that. If a band can sell fans live, they're gold. That's how it should always be. A band should never just be a recording project, in my opinion. It should be a live entity to entertain the public, right? That's what a band is, in my opinion.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
so you got to win your crowd. Overall, like the best PR is still live, but you still PR behind the scenes, setting up the interviews, the reviews, the airplay. Like, I can't imagine, you know, a band trying to write, you know, I've experienced the process where I've seen a band on tour, right? It's a lot of work itself. And then you got to think, they sit in a jam space, they write that material, they go to the studio, they record, they put it out, and they hit the road and all that. That just that effort alone. And then thinking about taking PR on their own and the bookings themselves, like it's a full-time job. It's honestly, it's a lot of work. So
Yeah, and I even remember when we did like our EP, like our not our demo, but like our Four Horsemen EP. That was the same thing. I was like literally having I was in college at the time, and I actually had long days of like even during class, like trying to reach out to certain places, and a lot of them just either like ignoring you or being like, oh, if you don't have a PR, we only take from PR people, you know? So
yeah,
it is difficult to do it on your own.
We're like the middleman because, you know, the reality is, to school some musicians who might be listening, is sometimes the media outlets don't want to deal with the musicians because sometimes the musicians don't present everything in a professional manner. You know, like even today I got an email from a band and they're like, I'm in a band, I need PR. And I'm like, great. And then they even forgot the name of the band.
What?
So it's just like, and then like maybe 2 minutes later, the email came back and they're like, oh, by the way, our name's this. And then I still had no links, I had nothing. So it's just like, okay.
Yeah, it's just
So
like
it's like that, and you'd be surprised how some bands just do that. They're like, I've heard stories from media guys who just like, yeah, I get an email from a band. They're like, we're this band, we released this, and all they do is send a Facebook link, and you're like, that doesn't work. I'm sorry, guys. Just sending a link to a Facebook will not get you coverage. You have to present everything. There's various formats that promos. You know, it's a product. I think sometimes the artists forget this is a product you're pushing. Music is a product, so it's got to be presented as a product. You know, to the media guys, right? It's like getting in the advanced product on sale, right? That's what they're getting. So, and then you just got to present it in a professional manner because it's just the way the things go, man. Everything's got to be presented in a certain manner for certain people to look and engage and stuff, right?
Yeah, and yeah, it's true. And I actually remember when I kind of learned that was I don't know, I think you might know her, was there was when I was in college and I was promoting our EP, across the hall from us, because I did music industry arts in college here in Ottawa, and one of the classes across the hall from us was PR. And one person I met was you know Samantha Gitor?
Yeah, I know of her, yeah.
Yeah, we one of our teachers brought her in to talk to the class once, and naturally, because I think there was maybe only like 2 metalheads in the entire course, naturally she like said like, oh, if you guys have any questions, feel free to message me or whatever. So I think I was the only one that did. And she explained to me the whole thing of like, oh, you know, PR, like for music especially, you have to have a press kit, and you got to have all these different links, and you got to have all these different things. And that was a big like, whoa moment, you know. And that's kind of like when you realize like, okay, you know, I actually have to take this seriously and start putting in the time of like, okay, I need to make this and this and this and this. And yeah.
Yeah, it's all key. The press kit is like the overall, but and then what's in the contents of the press kit is also very important.
Yeah.
The presentation, right? And so yeah, you know, advanced music, photos, videos, background info on the band, story angles, you know, info on the album. You know, some bands. My recommendation is bands should not be reluctant to say, I just want the listener to figure it out on their own. That is, to me, the lazy reply. You should honestly have more control and give them more insight into your album and your creativity and your writing, you know.
Yeah.
The musically and lyrically, right? Because the more you give them, it gives them insight. So
yeah, because like
as a PR guy, so
yeah, like I think talking like for like not as a musician but like just as a fan, that's the stuff that reels people in. I find, like, me personally, I love hearing about like what gave someone the inspiration for a certain song, like lyrically, or even something as simple as like a guitar lick, you know? Like if someone says like, "Oh, I based these lyrics off of let's say, like, even though I'm sure a million bands, us included, have done this, but like let's say like, oh, I based the lyrics off Skyrim, you know?" I'm like, great. Then that kind of uh puts you into like, okay, this certain kind of person will like this then, you know?
Yeah,
Or
there will be a fan out there that'll be like, "Oh, Skyrim, I love that
yeah,
game. Oh, let's check this out. What it's about." You know,
yeah,
like
or another one, which is a band that I've seen you've been promoting, actually, you've been doing PR for, is that I think they're from the States, Vis Mystica.
yeah, the Star Wars
Yeah, the
band.
Star Wars band. I'm just like
Yeah,
they're like a Star Wars themed power metal band, and their guitar player is like one of the most nuts guitar players I've ever seen. And automatically, and it's like, oh, and it has the singer from Dragonland in it too. So I'm
yeah.
like, I'm just like, inject that right into my veins.
Now, just imagine if like a band like that would just be like not be in detail. We're just like a power metal band, and they're like, we'll let them figure it out on their own. And it's just like that doesn't happen. That doesn't draw people. Like for Star Wars, I'm a big Star Wars fan. So when I heard about Galactic Empire, right,
Oh
I
yeah,
was
yeah,
just like, I didn't hear them yet, but I heard about Galactic Empire, and they're all themed about Star Wars. So I'm like, oh, I'll go check it out without, like that was the key. And then you hear them. And then I got to see them. I think, when did I see them live? I think I got a peek at them in like a Heavy Montreal or something. And it was like, okay, this is cool. This is cool. Like,
yeah, yeah.
so like what I'm getting at end result is be in depth, just don't be like, this is my band. Check it out yourself. Figure it out on your own.
Yeah,
Just
it's
be
like
depth.
you got to give people more insight. Now I see we have comments here from Wicked Wally webcast. Yeah, interviewing Vis Mystica. All you watching, check them out.
Oh
They
yeah,
have a
that
great
is.
show.
Yeah,
They have a-
Wally's webcast is great too. I was a guest on that, and he supported a lot of bands. I've sent him his way, so he's good. He's
yeah,
definitely good.
yeah, like he's I've watched this show because he's like interviewed a few of our colleagues like Red Kane and Juliet Ruin and all that, and which, spoiler alerts, a few of those members will be on this show as well soon.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
Well, I do the PR too, right? So
yeah. Well, it's actually funny because like a lot of the people who I selected for this series, because I haven't announced them obviously yet, but
yeah.
are pretty much just people who I've just been liking what they've been doing in terms of like music, and a lot of them are bands that you promote
Oh, that's
because just because I
good.
see it all the time. Like Red Cane, I found because I heard they were like a proggy kind of Camelot-ish kind of band, and I remember I found them out I think through you, and then I hit them up back before our tour was canceled. Be like, hey, we're passing through Calgary. Do you want to play together? I know we're kind of similar, and we've been talking with them ever since. You know, even though we haven't met
Oh,
them,
that's cool, man.
even though we
That's a
haven't.
good thing. You
Yeah,
know,
exactly.
that's how it should be. Like bands networking too, and finding and discovering each other. Like,
Yeah,
uh,
or like for example, the other one that I found that I liked from what you were doing was Juliet Ruin, because even though their style of music is not obviously not the same as ours, I appreciate the like amazing like musicianship and songwriting from that band as well. So a lot of the people who I've been talking to be on this series are like not only people that I know personally, or also there's a couple of sort of bigger guests who I'm just like a fan of or whatever, but a lot of it are just people who I just really like what they're doing in the scene, and I found them through you and through
that's
Wally as
good.
well. So
Well, I'll let you know tomorrow. Julia Ruin is gonna premiere a new single tomorrow.
yeah, I know, yeah.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
gonna drop. So I'm pretty stoked. Of course I get the advance to hear all the music, so it's really good.
yeah,
I
yeah,
love Julia Ruins. That their sound is I like it a lot. So I've been having fun promoting them. I've always had fun promoting them. They're they they're metalcore, right? The genty a bit, and but they still got like a signature sound that's like Juliet Ruin. I even had like a radio host in the States on FM dial out there was like super like, oh my God, I love this band. And I was like, oh, cool. I'm glad I reached, you know, some FM radio for them, right? So
Yeah.
it's good to get feedback from media that are then turned into fans even more. Like that too, maybe is a thing I'll point out too is when the media become fans of the band, that's even better. You know, they're
Oh
not
yeah.
just there because they were signed by the editor. They actually love like the band's music and want to support them. That's like the greatest gift. That's the greatest compliment you can get from the press.
Oh yeah.
When the press themselves become fans of the band and will help you support you and get your message and your music out there, right? So
We have a few more comments here. Rockin' Engine, hey boys, good friends of ours. And
I help them out too.
oh yeah. Those guys are great. We played one of our last shows we did before the pandemic was with them, and we played with Ross the Boss from Manowar, which that was
Oh yeah,
that was an incredible show because like Manowar is easily like one of our biggest like musical influences in terms of our sound. So just being able to do that with them and our friends band Scepter was just surreal. And he's such a great guy too. And
what's his face? Lopez, their singer.
Mark Lopez, yeah.
Yeah, he's so amazing live. I saw them live on 70 Tons last year. That was my first time seeing Ross the Boss. And like I wasn't really like into Ross the Boss, to be honest, like, you know, at the beginning. But then once I saw them live, I was just like, oh man, just another band I missed out on. Like, so, you know, you go and check out their catalog after, right? So,
Yeah.
but live, like the guitar playing was amazing, but Lopez for me, the vocalist,
Yeah.
top notch, man, top notch.
Yeah. And then the other one that I remember I fanboyed over a bit was their bass player, Mike LaPond, because he's also the same guy from Symphony X.
Mike's in that band too.
Yeah.
Man. I got to meet him. He's such a nice dude.
Oh yeah, he's so sweet. Nice, I remember a while back he actually I did a video of me doing like a vocal part for this band. It was like for like a contest or whatever. And when I posted it on Facebook, I literally like shook a bit because I got a comment from Mike LaPond saying, "Hey man, this is great." And I'm like, Mike LaPond from Symphony X likes me. Ah!
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah,
he's super down to earth and chill, man.
Yeah, one of the best bassists in the industry for sure.
Yeah.
Another wicked Wally, Lycanthro me baby. Yeah, we talked about we might be on a future episode soon. I just want our new material to get announced first, which I don't know when that is. So very soon, but
we'll get it for me. I harass his inbox like many other media guys daily.
Also, a question from him: any Powerwolf influence? Surprisingly, no. Actually, Powerwolf is not really a band. I don't hate them. Like, I just don't really listen to them. Like, the whole werewolf thing kind of came about from how there was a bunch of bands that I knew who were kind of doing like the vampire thing, like we're a metal band and we wear like Seven Spires being one of them, like, oh, we're a metal band and we wear this like Victorian clothing and we look all badass and stuff like that. So I thought, why not do the same thing but with the other side, with werewolves. So yeah. And just a little aside, any viewers here, we have about like 25 minutes left, so if any viewers here have any questions for me or for John, please leave them in the comments and we'll get to them. So I guess one of the things I did actually want to ask you as like a question was, you were mentioning the whole single promos and album promos. How has business because of the pandemic affected you? Are you getting the same amount of people? Are you getting less people? Or on the flip side, are you getting more people?
So at the beginning of the pandemic, there was a bit of a dry spell because everybody was in panic mode. It was just like, oh no, we shouldn't release. Nobody's gonna pay attention. Da 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 da. So it was a bit dry spell, and you know, it was like, okay, we'll figure this out as we go. Some bands retracted from releasing, and then eventually, as you know, we got more into this pandemic. Some bands were like, "Fuck it, let's just release it." And then there's a surge of just releasing because, you know, during lockdown, those who can't work are stuck at home, so they're writing material and they're recording it, and so there's been a surge. But I would say what's happened a lot, in my opinion, is a lot of bands have still been hesitant to release full albums and have just been doing single, single, single. But what happens, in my opinion, is some media outlets have just been getting frustrated with just like, where's your end game? If you're just going to release singles, this is kind of pointless because so most outlets are used to like a full album or an EP or something. So there's been some backlash behind the scenes that I've talked to some media dudes and they're just like, man, I can't stand just these singles, man. It's,
Yeah, that's such
something more.
yeah, and that's such an interesting thing to say because the oh wait before I say Grant from Unleash the Archers is in the chat right now. How's it going, man?
Yo.
And yeah, no, but like back to what you're saying about that is that's kind of an interesting thing to say because one thing that I've been seeing from a lot of videos on YouTube and a lot of industry people saying, oh, like what's the thing to do now is everyone's saying now, even before the pandemic, was like, oh, release singles. No one buys real albums anymore, which I personally don't like.
And I'm a critic of that. It's like, you could release singles and singles and singles, but I don't know, some people are still old school and we want an EP because what happens is you release a single and then it's just like one song and, you want more. You could probably want more of the band and then, people are waiting like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months for the next track. It's just, and there's, it's also, I think sometimes it's the demographic. There's older dudes, media dudes, and then there's the younger media dudes, and everyone's got a preference. And it's always been a thing in the music industry, in my opinion, is the age gap and then trying to like please this age group and that age group, and this age group that wants to do things this way, and this age group wants to do it this way. And that's just my personal opinion on it. But what I've noticed is like from just doing singles and no end game is the way I look at it from the PR angle. You come in, you release your single, and you die right away. That's what happens because there's only, in my opinion, as a PR rep, there's a lifespan with just a single. People get bored quick, and there's always new and saturated. So when we're doing like it's in terms of a product launch, you're releasing singles to an end game, which is your product of an EP or an album. If you just release a single, people listen to it and forget about you. You kind of it has little relevance in a sense, like lifespan. Whereas an album has like we're building up, we're building momentum, we're getting more and more. There's like I said just before, it's like the lifespan of a single can only go so far, whereas an album can go further, definitely, right? With the I'm talking from a press standpoint. You can't, I have some bands asking, can we get reviews on a single? And I'm like, honestly, a lot of press guys, there'll be some, but not the majority of like an album review, right? And interviews and stuff. More from my standpoint as PR is like, you'll get more interviews for an album promotion or EP promotion than you do for a single, because a single is just it's like a one-off. You do it and then there's nothing else to do with it. Whereas an album is like a compilation of songs you've written, and so we can move on to the next, right?
Yeah.
So it's tricky, man. There's going to be debate always in the music industry about this, but that's how I look at it.
And that makes sense. Yeah. And
so it's just the lifespan. And like as a PR too, I'm going to mention PR is also about progressively building and repetition. When you buy a product, let's say you go and you buy your guitar, your Nikes, or whatever products, your clothes or whatever, that stuff has been drilled in your head more than once until you make that purchasing power, right? That purchasing choice, right? So it's the same thing with music. So if it's just a single, how many times can you be annoyed with it? Whereas an album, it's advertised over and over, radio, online, print, and to make that purchasing choice for that album or streaming choice or whatever. That's all. That's how I just look at it. The single is like a band that releases a single and then doesn't do anything for 6 months. You can't annoy the same press guys for 6 months with the same single.
Yeah.
A single has like maybe, I usually do singles for 6 weeks max, because there's only so many times I can tell a press guy, hey man, cover this single. Hey man, cover this single. Hey,
Yeah.
play this intro. Play this. You know what I mean? Where an album gets more lifespan. That's just
Yeah. And yeah, no, I totally get that whole thing, because I totally get that, because I think the way like people see it now with the whole like just the single thing is I can totally see that from a PR standpoint. We have a few comments here from Sepsis. Really hope I pronounced that correctly. Says it depends on who you poll for the releases. For every person, there's another handful that promotes it. Bands are different from each other and they have different goals. Yeah. Grant from Alicia Archers. Agree with you guys. In the long run, albums will stand the test of time. Really captures an era of the band. Yes, like I find that all that stuff that you just mentioned, I think it does come down to the demographic. Because if there's a band, because I've like looked into like ours, for example, and most people who are listening to stuff like power metal, which is, let's be honest, very niche, is they'll be the same people who will buy physical stuff and want full albums instead of just the, like, unless you're like, sorry, if you're a younger band who plays like deathcore, metalcore, or something that a younger demographic likes, then obviously you still have to have an end game with an album, but those bands will release more and more singles, kind of more just because you'll get that jolt of the Spotify streams and all that. So
yeah, it's a demographic in the niche too. I agree. Like the classic heavy metal guys, the power metal guys, the thrash metal guys are a different breed than the metalcore fans, in a sense.
Oh yeah.
And I think it's the age thing too, maybe. In the end, I do the promo and it's just, that's the way I've witnessed it. Like, in the end, just sum it up, like I still find the album will expose a band more than just a single. Look, a single will keep you alive for a while. It's like riding the wave on your boat, right? Like your engine and stuff. So it's just like a single, you can only ride a single for so long, and then, but an album just goes way further. It just goes way further. Can you promote a single for a year? I don't think so.
No.
Album, hypothetically, could a band go on tour with just a single? A catalog of singles? Probably, if they had like 10 singles, but might as well just call it an album. But in my opinion, you can't go to a show when shows come back and be like, we're a band, we have one single and that's all we're promoting. You're gonna go to a show and play one single? No, you gotta play what's in your catalog.
Yeah, and
an album, right?
Yeah.
And the touring cycle too is like every band goes on tour to promote an album. That's my personal opinion.
Yeah.
I don't think I've witnessed any big band that was a success based on just a single and they never released an album. That's just my personal
opinion. Maybe in the 80s that was the case, but
who?
I said maybe in the 80s that was a case, like when they used to sell physical singles,
Yeah, but I could be proven wrong. But the way I've always looked at the music industry, every band that's gone on the road is because they had an album to promote, and their back catalog, and you're building your future. The band is a product, and then the CD and the album is a byproduct of the product, which is the band, right? Like it all works together. So, and a band that just releases one song and thinking, they'll build their fan base that way, one single at a time. Yes, it works. It can work if you're, but I'm still a firm believer as PR that you should be putting out albums and building, and then You know, I'm used to accustomed. We have the album; it has an end game of a release date, and then you're gonna release certain songs prior as singles to that lead up of the album dropping, and then you know you still do more promotions after it releases, more music videos, and then when touring comes back, you tour and you support it and all that.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. And
if you're
yeah,
gonna be a single band, then you're a studio project, you know.
yeah. And the other thing that and this is before pre-COVID, was one thing that I always used to kind of go like, for was whenever I'd see a band do like a single release show. Like, 'cause, you know, people always think of album release shows or EP release shows, but I've seen lots of bands do, oh, this is a single release show, and we're like, and to me personally, I'm just like, okay, like, is there anything else? Are you just gonna play? Is that one single the only new track you're gonna play, and that's it? And so,
I agree with you, because like when you say album, I'll be more interested and invested because I want to hear it all live. When you have a single, I'll just go online and I'll hear the one single, and I'll be like, okay. I honestly, when they have an album, maybe I'll go check them or something. I don't know. Maybe it's my age demographic. I'm still firm, and I think a lot of the industry is still firm that albums are the way. There's so much debate, but albums to me are the way to go, or EPs at least. You know,
yeah.
And, streaming services are more and more, but like, you know, people are still gonna listen to your music and they want more. I don't know. As a music fan, if I hear a band and I'm like, oh, that song's great, I want to hear more from that band. You know what I mean? Like, and not wait like a year. I've seen bands wait up to a year to release a follow-up single. You know, which it shouldn't be that. Anyways, we could go on and on this topic.
Oh yeah, no, it's true. It's it's just such a big debate, and I actually agree with you, because even though in my age range, I'm definitely kind of a weird outlier, because I'm only 22. I'm 22, and I'm a very much like a physical release everything. Like I still have cassettes. Like I still have some cassettes. You know, that's how kind of old school I was brought up. But just looking here at the comments from like TJ. What's up, TJ? It's been a while, man. And Grant and Sepsis, I really hope I'm pronouncing that right. And Tech Music Review. Oh, wow, I missed a bunch. Rockin' Engine, too. Yeah, they all seem to agree the same ways that singles only really should be for, like, I think TJ put it good, what he said. It's like a movie trailer. It's like watching a movie trailer. Yeah.
I honestly explain it like it's like selling drugs. I know that's cynical, but it's like you're giving them a taste, right? You're giving them a taste, you know, and you're trying to get the purchasing power for them to buy the whole product. That's singles to me are just are a tool for promotion, right? Like to get to the. So the way I break things down is like primary A, primary B, C, right? No, primary A, secondary B, whatever. The tiers, it's a tier system. So like your primary is the album, and then your secondary is like the single, and then you got music videos, and all of it is just trying to funnel to the end game. That's all you're trying to do. So like, you know, if I gave away a single and that's it, you know, it's just a quick hit and it's done. That's how it is. You know, you could do you can milk a single till like single stream, lyric video, music video, playthrough video, free download, and then what? You know, like
exactly.
We're done.
Yeah, and
how many times can you bug an editor or a radio guy? Play my single, play my single, play my single.
Yeah,
the radio guy will be like, anything new? No, just this single. Keep playing this single. You know, and then it's like, you know, they get tired.
Yeah, you know? Yeah, it's true, and because I actually have seen bands do that. Sorry, what, man?
Oh, it's just like I feel like I'm like starting to be like a bit of a broken record.
no, but it's but that's the kind of thing that it bears repeating, you know. Thanks, Wally. See you, bud. And it's something that bears repeating because like I've actually seen bands before do just do the whole like even though it's cool when they'll have like different like, oh, we'll release a single, then here's a lyric video of the single, then here's a music video of the single. Like, it's cool to see like the different interpretations of things, like in terms of like just the content, like the lyric video will look a certain way or a music video will look a certain way, but eventually you'll just get sick of the song. Be like, okay, where's the new
Unless it's a good
one?
song, right?
Yeah,
Unless it's a good song.
well, yeah, one band I remember I saw do this. They're not from here. They're one of my favorite bands from Europe currently. They're called Arion, and
Oh yeah.
yeah, Arion are amazing, and they released a single for their second album like a few years ago. It was like called "At the Break of Dawn," and they had Elise from Amaranth as the guest vocalist on it, and they literally released the track digitally. I think they did more singles for the album afterwards, but I think they released 3 different videos of the same song. It's like, okay, here's the streaming video, here's the lyric video, and then finally when they could get her in a video, here's the music video, and it was such a good song that people didn't care. They were like, yeah.
And that's like milking the product for as much as
Oh,
you
yeah.
can squeeze out of it. You know, to me that would have been fine, because it's just like, because you know, some people have heard it the first time, but then, you know, there's still people you're looking for who haven't heard it yet, right? And that's why you're using these different tools. Like, in a sense, a stream's a different tool, a lyric video is a different tool, and a music video is a different tool. So you might be upsetting some people who have already heard it multiple times or seen it everywhere multiple times, but you're still trying to reach a new fan base, right? New people, new followers, whatever, etc. A new customer market that that haven't heard it yet, right? So
Yeah.
repetition, right?
Yeah, no, pretty much. But as you see, we got some more comments here from Sepsis again. A lot of the thing just cut off. There we go. A lot of bands are looking for placements, quick opportunities, hoping to create new conversations and ramp their playlists and get people back to their early catalogs. Yeah, like that actually. I think that's true. There's actually have been lots of bands, especially older ones, who you will like discover through a new record and then go back and listen to their older stuff. So I think that's also a good thing too, in terms of when a band will. Like, I've done that a bunch. Like, if I hear a new single from a band and there's nothing else coming, I'll be like, okay, what's their older stuff like, you know?
Yeah. Well, it's just reinventing new ways to create more interest into the band. You know, the band is product A, primary product. You know, the albums or the singles could be, you know, B. And you're just trying to re-engage and reinform and keep the message going. That's what a product is. You know, look how many times we're sold Coke. How many times has Coke been rebranded? It's kind of the same thing with bands. Where, you know, in a sense, you're putting out new music because you're trying to rebrand or create new interest back into the band and their music, etc., into their catalog. So that's kind of the way you can break it down too. But in the end, you're musicians and you're creatives, and you should just be continuously putting out new music all the time and not depending on always just like, we recorded this and let that sit for a year, 2 years, 3. You know, you should just always be creative and developing and progressing. I call it the metal ladder too. You should be trying to climb the metal ladder and building your career, right? It's building a resume. That's also what being in a band too is. So, you know, you're a young band and then you release your first EP or singles or whatever album, you know, okay, we got to that stage. Okay, we'll build upon that. And then you got to build and build and build and build. You know, all the big bands you see, it's the same story. They worked hard and built and networked and, you know, honed their skill and got better and better, right? So it's like, you know,
and they consistently put out like new content on a regular basis, you know? Yeah.
So it's just like, that's just the evolution. And, you know, the bands who think we release an album and get a record deal too and there'll be an overnight success, it just doesn't work that way. Even the label's still working as hard as the musicians to get it out there. You know, everything is a brick wall, you know, especially a new band. New bands and indie bands are probably the hardest to break you know, compared to, I work both established and I work indie. And I can tell you from my experience working in it, when I have been given an established artist to work with, the job has been a bit easier because you have a product that people are seeking more. Whereas an independent artist is not a product being sought out, right?
You have to
So
sell it more. Yeah.
you have to sell it more, you know, you got to be more of a sales pitch for it. Whereas,
Yeah.
like, I remember working for one established artist, and it would be like emails and phone calls would come in. Oh man, we love so and so. We want to do an interview. We want to do this. We want to, and it was. I felt sometimes that I was more like a secretary, just scheduling things, right? Because the name was so known, it was easier. Whereas an independent artist is, we're always breaking down barriers and new walls until people are familiarized. So it comes down to my mentality or a product, and we're just trying to break the product all the time. That's all
Oh,
we're
yeah.
trying to do.
Yeah. All right. So I think we have like a few minutes left here. So I guess one thing to close is, I know you've talked about this a lot at length. Like, I was planning on asking you this anyways, but aside from the many things that you've said so far, for anyone who could be watching, do you have any advice for any brand new bands, like bands who haven't who are like maybe recording their first thing or learning how to promote themselves?
Yeah, actually, you touched on a great topic because during this whole COVID thing too, I've gotten, you know, a lot of bands seeking me out and stuff. They recorded, they got singles or albums. But what's happened is quality. I found that some of the quality has gone down the drain. And, you know, home recordings sometimes are not all the way to go. And, you know, really work with a producer, a recording engineer, you know, proper mastering, all that stuff, mixing.
Mhm.
Because that too, I've had to turn down a good amount of bands, and it's not because partially the music wasn't like good. It was the quality. The recordings were just not that good. It's just your quality. And quality is key. And it's not that I don't like you and I don't want to work with. It's, I'm actually protecting you, because if you go to a media outlet with an improperly recorded material,
Mhm.
you know, you get one shot, and first impressions are key. And so and also it's my name too. So, but like, let's say you end up working with somebody else and you just throw out these not properly recorded materials during these COVID times, you're gonna screw the pooch, because it's like that first impression, that guy, you know, that media outlet be like, oh man, they rejected you because it's just terrible, or they rip you, or they take it and they just shred it to bits, and that's not a first impression you want.
Yeah,
You
and yeah,
so
and
I think what's key, one message I do want to get across is like, you know, I know it's locked down, access to studios aren't the greatest, but if you can, you know, try to get the high quality recordings and stuff still, because that impression is key. When I worked at one of the first record labels I worked at, it was like, I remember like the main management of the label was just like, dude, nothing happens without an excellent quality recording. Everybody who works in this industry, like at this label, everything we're doing, we can't sell anything without a good quality product, right? So
mhm.
that's one thing stressed. So guys like Joe is one of the guys in Ottawa I love to recommend, because like, he's top notch, man. Everything he does is
Oh
top
yeah,
notch. You
and
know, like,
oh yeah, and like he did our first. I remember he did our first video, and I was just, and this is like before he got a lot of like the really big equipment he has now. So, and even with that, I was just like mind blown. And the other thing that you mentioned about the quality of recording is that like I I know what you mean, because we kind of learned that the hard way, because before we even like started, we were like, when we were just starting out and we were still kind of learning, we did like a demo, and I remember I sent it to like a couple of websites, and they didn't necessarily rip it, but they like said, they all said the same thing. They said, yeah, the songs are good, the songwriting's good, but the quality really needs to go up. And I remember there was one website who they actually did kind of rip it, actually, and I was just like, oh, crap, you know, this wasn't. They ripped it, and then the same guy who kind of ripped us messaged me a year or two later, said, "Hey, I saw you guys are doing a new EP. Send it to me when you're ready." And I'm like, "Oh, I will." And then I sent it to him. Next thing I know, he writes us a glowing review being like, "Oh yeah, they improved so much over the last thing." So
Yeah, and that's what you want, but you know, you kind of avoid it. You wanted to avoid that first impression, right?
oh yeah.
Of, you know, cut. You know, that's my only critique. I know some bands will be like, "Oh, but it costs financially a lot and stuff." But you know what? The end result, the financial investment in a good recording is beneficial in the long run because, you know, if you can't put care into a good recording, that shows how much you truly care about your art, in my opinion, too, right?
Yeah.
You know, that's just it. Like, you know, I've been getting a lot of those, and I think I rather protect the band from being like, just, it hurts their image. It does. If you put out a raw recording and you say this is your EP and stuff, or your single, and it's just not like, not well recorded, people are just gonna ignore you. They're just gonna be like, "Ah, oh, that band, I remember that band," you
Mm,
know.
yeah, yeah.
So
Or in some cases, you'll be a meme, maybe.
yeah, so that's one of my advices. And then my other advice is, in general, is just plan. You know, I think some bands get so eager out of, you know, they record their album and they get it from the studio, and then it's like online the next day, and then they wonder, it's like they spent thousands of dollars in this recording studio to make that one Facebook post for that whole album, and then they wonder why nobody's paying attention to them. It's because you kind of didn't go in with a plan. You know,
Yeah.
everything's like, you know, planned out, and how you want to approach it to the consumer, the music fans. How do you, you know, you have control over how to supply them your music, your product. So take the time, never rush it. There's never a rush. Never. And another thing is, like, bands should never say they're releasing an EP or a single or something before ever having the finished product. I've seen that
Oh,
happen a lot of times.
oh
Bands are
yeah.
like, we're dropping this video, or we're dropping this single this date, or this album, and you know, it's not ready, and you
Oh
just,
yeah.
it's just looks bad. And you just have my advice to a lot of independent young bands still starting out is, have your content first, record all your stuff, your artwork, your photos, and then plan it out. Be like, what do we want to do as a music video? What single, you know, and then just kind of corral it all together. And then once you have it all, it's like your ammunition. Then start planning it out and see what we're gonna be trigger happy with first, you know.
Yeah,
And
I
so
my
it's just planning.
yeah, yeah, and the thing you mentioned about them like, oh, like not really planning, and then they say, oh, we're gonna release this on this date, and then they don't have it on that date. Is that like, because my family's British and my dad calls that Sod's law, which it means it's kind of like Murphy's law here, where when something is gonna go wrong, it's gonna go wrong, you know.
Yeah. Well,
So
in the music industry, everything that can go wrong does go wrong,
oh
and
yeah,
just be
big time.
prepared for it. So that yeah, that's my experience. The music industry is a trial and error industry. Um, some things you just have to learn for them to go wrong, and then you learn from those mistakes. But the end game is just have a plan, like 3 months, 6 months, a year, 2 years, 5 years. You know, in a sense that you're a product and you have future goals and you want to build your resume. So, you know, in the next 3 months, we want to do this with the band. In the next 6 months, and you know, have your goal as like, we want to open for this big band locally or something. You know what I mean? Or
Mhm.
be able to tour this far within the country at this, you know, within the next 6 months or a year, 2 years. You know, it's just, it's planning, 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 and thinking of ahead. Always,
Yeah.
always thinking ahead of the game. That's
Mhm.
really, you wonder why some bands are so successful, is also because they've been thinking their end game, in a sense, way in advance, right? We're gonna, it's making your little moves So we'll play this show here at this time, and we'll release around this. It's just planning it out. I've always found writing it out and just trying to keep it, because the timeline and the planning will never go as always as planned, but try to stay as close as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, anyways, I think I'm gonna call it now. So thank you very much for coming on, man. And for those of you who are still on, give us a follow, give Asher Media a follow, and please go to them if you ever need any PR stuff, if you're a band or an artist or whatever. So thanks for being on the show, John.
No, thanks for having me.
Sweet, man. All right, well, we'll be back on Friday with Paul from Blackguard on the show. Oh, yeah. He's an old buddy, so I'm really excited to talk with him again. Well, anyways, see you guys. See you, John. Was a pleasure.
All right, thank you very much.
All right, see you guys. See you, man.
All right, cheers.